Welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is bits and pieces and the economic woes of Germany. Well, there's a lot of have been said about Germany cutting itself off from the gas supply of Russia, and that the German economy will implode, etc., etc. But I don't want to really talk about that. Basically, the article goes about that the Germans have been spending more than $500 billion to keep the lights on. This is what it cost the German economy to distance itself from, or cutting itself off from Russian gas supplies. And it's all to do with the sanctions and the effort to support Ukraine. Now, compare that a little bit against the US. So the US has sent a little bit more than 20 billions worth of weapons to them, and probably another 60 billion in terms of aid and replenishment of their own problems of training, whatever, how they can wash and steal that aid money. Because I cannot see how you can spend $60 billion in terms of aid and so on. And you have finance, you're supposed to have finance the Ukrainian government for loss of income due to the war. Now, there's some big money laundering. A lot of people are getting rich. In any case, that 20 billion worth of spending, sending military equipment to Ukraine, that's all going to go to the military industrial complex in any case. So, and it was all junk. So the US was selling its scrap basically to Ukraine to be blown up there. And here we have the Germans alone. Just remember, that is Germany alone, losing about $500 billion. And how big is Germany's economy versus the US? As far as I remember, it's about $3.7 trillion for Germany and $20 trillion for the US. So who's suffering the most? Well, it seems to me that Germans are prepared to take the punch. And remember, that is the strongest economy in Europe, and a lot of other countries depend on money being donated by Germany to the EU to support Poland and Lithuania and Serbia and Hungary and Romania and Slovakia and so on. They all get grants from the EU, from Germany basically, and France. No? And now the goose that just laid the golden egg is now suffering. In any case, this $500 billion that the Germans are basically spending is to bail out energy companies that didn't make provision for these high gas prices, were taking a loss. And also to stimulate and allow people to buy coal and this high energy price, this high gas prices, and to restart the power plants, the coal-fired power plants, and restart the mines and purchase additional energy sources. And basically, they say it includes the losses of trade with Russia, but I'm not totally sure. It was not laid out completely how this $500 billion was calculated, but I would presume it would include a fair punch of that, fair part of that export-import. And remember, about 2 months ago, Germany had the first negative balance of payment. It exported less than what it imported. I don't know. Yes, you could argue it was the high gas prices, but oh yeah, some of the money is to build these new LNG terminals and stuff like that. By comparison, this 500, oops, yeah, $500 billion is about 12% of German GDP. And it is equating to $5,400 per resident in Germany, per person. And it estimated $1.6 billion per day since the conflict in Ukraine has started. Just imagine these numbers. There's a debt being placed on every resident in Germany of $5,400. It is 12% of your GDP. What country can take such a type of punch? And then even growth is still estimated for next year and the year after that. Sometimes I wonder how these financial people and economic people get their numbers from. If you have this high inflation of 10% per year, which was caused not by Ukraine and Russia, but by money printing, the Ukrainian war just accelerated the process and made it worse. It's not going to stop. But we hear always the inflation is transitionary, and next year the inflation is going to be a lot lower, and then they're going to meet it. No, you're not going to meet it. Next year is going to be even worse. Because this year Germany filled their tanks still with Russian gas. But next year there will be no filling with Russian gas. All gas have to be imported by LNG tanks. So the situation is going to be a hell of a lot worse. And just remember, 46% of German electricity is generated by renewable energies, which means sun and wind. Now, if the weather doesn't play with you, then, hey, Germany's going to be in trouble. So then they have to purchase electricity from other countries, if the other countries can supply them. If not, then it's blackouts. If yes, then it's money. And that means their debt increases. And currently, I understand it's about 72% of German debt to GDP is about 72%. Now, if Germany cannot export to Russia anymore, and it has to, the world economy is slowing down in Asia and all the other places, so its production cannot go ahead. It cannot produce enough products because the energy is too high. Companies are shutting down, so their GDP just in production volume decreases. Then its export market was cut off, so that GDP is also dropping. Then they have to pay higher fees for the gases. So a relative, again, it's a huge more burden on the economy, so that GDP is again smaller. Then it's without making any debt. Then suddenly they don't have 72% ratio debt to GDP, but suddenly they have 80 and 90%. No extra money, just by shrinking of the GDP, the economy. So, who thinks this is, and if Germany doesn't have money, then Poland doesn't get any grants, and Hungary gets no grant. And there was the recent agreement that Poland had to agree to the pressure of the EU for some other grants, COVID grants. They had to change their laws, which they stubbornly refused to do, but now they have to do it. So they capitulated on that item. Because anyway, money is important. Money is the game changer. And the war hasn't stopped. And if I looked at the progress the Russians are making, I'm sorry to say it's going to last a long time. It's not going to end next year. Not going to get the end after that. It's going to take a long time to resolve the Ukrainian war. So, and as long as the war is still going on, Germany said no deals with Russia. So no gas, no trade, no nothing. And the effect of these things we haven't even seen yet. It will only become visible next year. But then what does the German do? They already indicated they're going to have a record loans of next year. They're going to issue or make loans of $540 billion, which is a record. So what do? They lend more money. to balance the book. They're printing money. That is what they're going to do. And as I've said now, the COVID era has shown us where they printed money, what inflation will do. And then inflation will just increase. So the more money Germany borrows, more it borrows, the higher the inflation will be. And if it's like a contagious. Germany, strongest economy in Europe, if that one suffers or gets a fever, then the rest of the EU also gets. How do you say? America gets a cold, the world gets a fever? No, Germany gets a cold, the rest of the EU gets a fever. That's how it's going to happen. So somebody is in nice big trouble. It's now December, it's nearly Christmas, January is around the corner. So let's see what happens in June next year, if everything is still hunky-dory. So that's my story for today. If you liked it, subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word, and until next time, cheers.